Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So the guy we are going to discuss today, he was considered to be the most significant serial killer in the country for the past 2 decades of his time in terms of number of victims and the length of time. He is, and I say is because, yeah, he's still with us, unfortunately. But he is also rotten, so yeah. Let me not get ahead of myself. He is an American serial killer who had raped and unalived at least 23 men and boys in the state of Louisiana between 1997 and 2006. Who exactly are we talking about? Let's get into it. This guy's name is Ronald Joseph Dominic. Dominic was born on January 9th, 1964 in Thibodaux, not sure how to pronounce that, Louisiana. He was the youngest of 6 children. It was said that his parents were kind of poor and they lived in a trailer park outside of the city. Now, listen to this tea, okay? Allegedly, okay? There's a little bit of a gossip about Dominic's family, right? It was believed that Dominic's dad had a feeling that his wife, Dominic's mom, was cheating on him. So one day, he took the kids and Dominic's mom was supposed to be at her brother's house, and the dad went there with the kids to pay the mom a visit. And when he got there, he found Dominic's mom in bed with her brother. Gasp. I'm like, can you imagine the horror? Like, your wife is in bed with her brother. And like, it didn't say whether or not he brought the kids in the room where he found them. But like, imagine if the kids were there. Oh my goodness. And then I had a thought. I was thinking, like, was it really her brother? Or was she passing him as her brother just so that the husband wouldn't suspect them? Maybe they were just committing incest. I don't know. But that was weird. I just thought that was a little cray-cray. Anywho, nothing to see here. Moving on. It was said that Dominic in high school was not, doing all that well. He had some issues. He was struggling with depression and mood swings, and he didn't have the best communication skills, and he was also a little bit of a chubs. Even though Dominic was a part of the school choir, he did not play any sports. He didn't do drugs. He didn't drink alcohol. And apparently, if you don't do any of that stuff, you're not considered cool. And so he wasn't all that popular and had very low self-esteem because of everything else that he was dealing with as far as his weight and his health issues and mentally. So needless to say, he was bullied a lot. To make matters worse, Dominic had to come to terms with the fact that he might be a little bit gay, okay? He might be a little bit colorful. So then when he realized that, which was towards the end of his high school year, I think he had always felt like he was gay, but he didn't want to come to terms with that fact. It was not very well received back then. So he kind of hid it all through high school, but towards the end of high school, he was like, you know what, it is what it is. I'm gay. So he started going to gay bar, and then some of his classmates would spot him going to the gay bar or maybe leaving the gay bar. It wasn't specific. It just said that they saw him. And then I'm like, how did you see him? Were you gay yourself and frequenting those gay bars? What gives? Yeah. So they would spot him and then they would bully him some more. So Dominic did not have the best high school experience. Things was just weird for him. He graduated high school in 1983 and then he attempted to go to a university for computer science, but he ended up not liking it, so he dropped out of college in the mid 1980s and things just went downhill for him from there. He started getting into some trouble. In 1985, on July 12th to be exact, Dominic was arrested for sexually harassing somebody on the phone. And he had to pay $75 for that. In addition, because of his lack of education, Dominic had to work a lot of dead-end jobs, jobs that don't require a whole bunch of skills, but a lot of laboring for the next couple of years. And he also struggled to hold down a job because of his temper. So I'm assuming he was let go a lot. I don't think homeboy was going around quitting. I think he was probably difficult to work with, running his mouth, losing his temper, and his bosses were like, yeah, we can't do that. You gotta go. So yeah, I'm assuming he got fired a lot. So as a result of that, he didn't have no money, no good job really. So he ended up having to live off of family members, mostly his mom and his sister though. He was taking turns in between the two of them. And then when he was like around 23 years old, he moved out of his mom's house into a trailer on his older sister's lot. In 1994, he was arrested for drinking and driving, and he also had to pay a fine for that. And 2 years later, on August 25th, 1996, a young boy who was half naked jumped out of the window of Dominic's sister's house, which is where Dominic was living at the time before he moved out into his own trailer. And then that boy told the neighbor that Dominic had tried to grape and unalive him, and Dominic ended up being arrested. His bail was set at $100,000, which no one could afford at the time, so he ended up sitting in prison waiting for a court date because he couldn't post bail. And when the case was set to go to court, they could not find that victim. So in November of that year, they ended up dismissing the charges against him. Now, remember I said that he could not post bail because it was way too high for him and he had to sit in jail. Well, get this, while Dominic was sitting in jail waiting for his court date, he was telling investigators later on that some of the inmates sexually assaulted him while he was in there. On February 10th, 2002, Dominic was arrested again. Now, remember when I said his crimes span between 1997 and 2006? So if he was arrested in 2002, they probably hadn't built a case yet, and because in 2002 they had him. Because around that time he was still killing people. Anyway, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yes, so as I was saying, on February 10th, 2002, Dominic was arrested again, this time for assaulting a woman in a Terrebonne parish during a Mardi Gras festival. Dominic had said that the woman was driving carelessly in the parking lot and she hit a stroller, and that's when they began to have an argument, and Dominic then ended up punching her in the face. Oh my gosh, boy. He was charged, but then later the case was dropped because he ended up apologizing to the lady and she accepted the apology, so they moved on. I hope she would have pressed charges, probably would have been in there and probably would have done some DNA testing. Who knows? I don't know. Some more lives could have been saved. Anyways, Dominic did not have a family of his own outside of like his sister and mom, whatever. He did not have children. He was never married. I'm going to say that is a great thing, okay? And so because of that, he spent all of his free time in gay bars and cross-dressed as the singer Patti LaBelle. Immediately, no. Don't do that. Absolutely not. What made things even worse for Dominic, though, is the fact that he was so unattractive and knotted, like had health issues. He could barely breathe, heart problems and all that. He had to use a cane to move about. So he was not a sight to see, okay? So even in the gay community, he was not wanted. Like no other gay folk was attracted to him, is the best way that I can put it. And I'm sure that didn't help his self-esteem and confidence, which I guess prompted him to start finding a new way to engage in sexual activities because he's not gonna get it the regular way. So he had decided, let's just go unalive some folks, and get it that way, because that's usually how you do it, Dominic, right? So then began his 9-year killing spree. It was said that Dominic's victims were anywhere from teenagers to older men between the ages of 16 and 46. However, not all of them were gay, and most of them were African Americans for whatever reason. And also a lot of them were drug addicts, homeless, hitchhikers, those type of people that usually would go unnoticed for days anyways. So that's who he would prey on. And the way he would do that is he would lure them into his truck with drugs or group sex. He would always say that he has a woman or a sister who wants to have group sex and threesomes and all that good stuff, but the sister was shy, so he had to tie them up because the sister had suffered some type of abuse from her ex, so she was afraid of men, and for her to perform he would have to tie them up. The homeless, he would offer them shelter. The hitchhikers, he would offer them rides. And yeah, basically that's how he would like get them into his truck or his trailer, and then he would unalive them. He started unaliving people in July of 1997. It was said that his first victim was a 19-year-old African American. He picked him up while he was hitchhiking alone from like a family event, and 2 days later they found his body in a ditch along the highway, like near a wooded area in St. Charles Parish. I was like, why is it that everything in Louisiana says parish, but parish is like different counties? Like in Florida we have like Orange County, Osceola County, Lake County. So parish is to Louisiana as county is to Florida. That was good English. I'm proud of myself. Anyways, in December 1997, he strangled a 20-year-old man who had recently been arrested for drug trafficking. They found his body fully clothed with no signs of physical trauma or drugs in his system. On July 31st of 1998, he unalived a 38-year-old man. He was a drug addict, homeless, whom he offered shelter to, and the guy fell for it and then went into his trailer thinking that he's going to finally spend the night under a roof. And no, he tied him up, raped him, and then strangled him to death. Sick. In early October of 1998, Dominic met a 27-year-old boy in Monterrey. Yeah, that's a French word. And he claimed that the man offered him sexual services in exchange for money, and then they had their relations. He ended up tying him up, beating him and strangling him to death, and he dumped the body on the outskirts of Monterrey, where it was found on October 4th. And while they were examining the body, they found traces of Dominic's man juice all over the body. Ew. Ugh. That same October of 1998, he met a 16-year-old boy whom he lured into his truck, promising to sell him some Coca-Cola powder. The boy agreed, followed him into the truck. They did do the Coca-Cola powder, but then he hit him several times on the head, raped him, and then strangled him with a plastic bag. Oh my gosh, he was only 16. What a bastard. On November of that same year, 1998, another 18-year-old offered to sell him drugs. Dominic then accepted the offer and told the boy that they need to go to like his truck to do it. And when they got there, same thing happened. He bound him, raped him, and then strangled him, and then dumped the body somewhere. They found Dominic's man juice all over the body as well. And again, I say, ew. Ugh. A month later, Dominic met a 34-year-old man, offered him drugs in exchange for sex. He then took the guy to the forest for them to do their transaction, and then he tied him up, raped him, strangled him, and he dumped his nude body in the woods. On January 2000, Dominic claimed another victim, a 23-year-old man in La Fourche Parish. These French words. Lord Jesus, my French is not what it used to be. After the January 2000 murder, Dominic took a very long break from unaliving people. It didn't say why, but he didn't strike again until October of 2002 when he befriended a 20-year-old man. Okay, so this one, I'm a little biased about this one. I mean, I still am not for a human taking another human's life, right? However, it was said that this particular 20-year-old messed with little children. I don't like that. You know, he allegedly messed with little children, and he was tried a few times, at least 3 cases against him for messing with little children. So I don't know that I feel, I don't know. I'm just saying I'm a little biased about this one. But yeah, he lured this little 20-year-old, made him the same promise and telling him that there is a girl waiting in his trailer to have sex with them. And once, you know, he got there, he attacked him, did the same thing to him, and then he dumped the body somewhere. And his body was found naked, like partially naked, on October 6, 2002. On October 12, 2002, literally less than a week later, Dominic met a 26-year-old man on the street, he attacked him, tied him up, raped him, and strangled him, and then just dumped the body. It started out as him just probably just wanting to do the deed since he couldn't find nobody to give him the time of day. And then it was said that Dominic stated that he didn't want to go back to jail because of what happened to him the last time. So he figured if he unalived the people, then he would have no witnesses. But like, how often are you wanting to do the deed and then you're just going out there just unaliving everybody that you done did it with? Like, you don't know how to, like, I don't know, do stuff with yourself. Since you're not getting no play, just do stuff with yourself. Why you have to go find other people and then you do the deed and then you unalive them? That's crazy. That is crazy. In late 2002, he and his sister, they moved to another area where Dominic found a job that allowed him to travel freely. So he just continued his little acts. His next victim was a 19-year-old boy, and until he was arrested, they thought the little boy had suffered an asthma attack and died because he couldn't breathe. You know, asthma. That's so sad. On October 2004, he took the life of a 46-year-old man by promising him drugs, and then the man overdosed, and then Dominic proceeded to rape the man and strangle him, and then he dumped his body around 20 miles away from where he unalived him. And like, no one reported him because he was homeless. After that, he took the life of a 21-year-old boy. That was his first Caucasian victim. And on February 2005, he took yet another life. It was a 22-year-old homeless boy. 2 months later, he unalived another 21-year-old homeless man by promising him that he would give him a place to stay overnight. And when the guy got to his trailer, he gave him alcohol and offered him to have sexual relations with a female. And then he tied him up, raped him, and strangled him. And now, because the bodies were like scattered at random places and different areas, they never put two and two together to think that it could be done by the same person. So it wasn't until this murder in 2005 that the police started to consider for the first time that they were actually dealing with a serial killer, because the style of murder had similarities between them. And then they ended up turning the case over to the FBI. Shortly after, they started to put a task force together to try and solve these cases, but unfortunately Hurricane Katrina would hit after that, which slowed them down a little bit. A few days later, he took the life of another 23-year-old boy, and later that summer in 2005, he took 2 more lives. For these particular victims, they had no priors and they weren't known to like do drugs or anything like that. So he used the women group sex thing to like lure them into his trailer. In September of 2005, he unalived a 40-year-old man who was trying to catch a ride out of Napoleonville right after Hurricane Katrina. He dumped his body somewhere along the way. They found him about a month later in late November. He took another life of a 21-year-old man, and because this 21-year-old man was like a drug addict who owed people some money, they just thought his death was then drug related. Dominic's next and last victim, thank God, was a 27-year-old man. He was bisexual and they met in like the summer of 2006. So they started dating. On October 14th, while they were on a date, the freak, Dominic, hit him over the head, which caused him to lose consciousness. It didn't specify after that, but I'm just going to assume that he allegedly bound him, raped him, and strangled him just like he did the others. When the police found his body, his friends and family were able to give the police a little bit of description or information, rather, that the last time they saw him, he was with a man driving a black SUV. And that's all they had. But I would say that's a little something. That's a little something. Because at least, this one had families, was keeping tabs on him and knew about his whereabouts and could say the last time they saw him. In mid-2006, Dominic came in contact with what would have been another one of his victims, but then he ended up letting him go, and that guy ended up being the one to help the police put it all together. So with his same tactic, he lured the guy, The guy was an ex-con. He was on parole, so he let the guy into his trailer by offering him drugs and sex with a girl. And after the man entered his trailer, he then told the man that the girl liked bondage and like he offered to tie him up. And the guy was like, absolutely not. The guy refused and Dominic let him go. Now remember I said the guy was an ex-con who was on parole, so he then went to his parole officer and was like, man, you won't believe what just happened to me. He told his parole officer about the whole incident, and they ended up contacting the police. They took Dominic in for questioning, did a DNA test. It turned out that his DNA matched that of the killer whose man juice they found on those victims. So on December 1st, 2006, Dominic was arrested. When they started surveilling him, he voluntarily moved out of the sister's lot, like out of the trailer from his sister's lot, into a homeless shelter because he didn't want to inconvenience his family, because he felt like it was just a matter of time before they arrested him. So I guess he had a little bit of a consideration there. Once he got to the police station, he didn't waste no time. He just immediately spilled all of the contents of his guts and confessed to all 23 murders. They only had like 8 charges against him. He confessed to all 23. It wasn't said that they charged him with all 23. I don't know if it's because they couldn't link all 23 to him, but they did charge him with 8. Even though he confessed, he still did not want to admit to being guilty. He said that most of his victims had a drug addiction and they volunteered to be tied up or handcuffed and to be treated the way that he wanted to treat them because they wanted to earn money to go buy more drugs. And he said whatever victim did not want to be tied up, he let them go without, harming them. Even if they agreed to be tied up, sir, it doesn't mean that they agreed for you to take their lives. So it doesn't make sense. You did all this because you're trying to not go back to jail. Here's an idea. How about you don't assault people to begin with? How about you keep your hands to yourself? How about you keep your pee-pee in your pants or in your hands and stop trying to put it where people don't want it, and you won't have to worry about going to jail. My goodness. Now, the DA had every intention of going for the death penalty, but the dum-dum over here, he did change his mind and ended up taking a plea bargain from prosecutors. And on September 24th, 2008, he was found guilty on all charges and was sentenced to 8 consecutive lives in prison without the possibility of parole. That is right. I am here for it. Homeboy is currently serving his time at the Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola Parish. I love it. What do you guys think? I couldn't find anything official on his records outside of like heart health and obesity. So I don't know what made him switch. And I also was reading like a couple of articles, and it was saying that he was like a very helpful gentleman to the people who knew him. They would have never suspected him. He was like helping elderly people at the bingo thingy. He would call the bingo numbers for the elderly. He like registered to become a member there so that he could help out the elderly. He was very helpful. He was a nice guy and all that good stuff. But then he was taking people's lives. That's crazy. I hope that he rots, and I hope that he never sleeps another day of his life. And if he does close his eyes, I hope that all he sees are those faces of those people whose lives he took. That's what I hope for him. Anyways, that is all I have on this guy. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in my next one. But until then, I hope to see you in the comment section. Bye.